There comes a moment in life when your heart cries louder than your voice ever could. You sit in the silence of your own soul, holding on to someone who was never really holding you back. And it hurts. Not the kind of pain you can see, but the kind that breaks you from the inside out. You gave your time, your love, your loyalty. You stayed when you should have walked. You fought when they stopped caring. You kept showing up while they kept disappearing. And now you're left with the question, how do I let go of someone who hurt me? Someone I loved. Let me tell you something real. Just because someone meant the world to you doesn't mean they belonged in your world forever. The hardest part isn't moving on. It's choosing to stop bleeding for someone who wouldn't even hand you a bandage. You cannot heal in the same place that broke you. And you cannot keep pouring into a soul that was sent to drain your. This ain't just about heartbreak. This is about healing. This is about standing in the ruins of what you thought was love and deciding you still deserve peace. It's about looking in the mirror and saying, I matter too. Because the most powerful act of love you can give sometimes is letting go. So if you're hurting, if you're holding on to the memory of someone who only gave you pain, I need you to listen close. Because this is your breakthrough moment. It's a kind of pain that doesn't show up in x-rays. It doesn't bleed. It doesn't bruise. But it lives in your chest like a fire you can't put out. And the worst part, you carry it quietly, behind smiles and crowds, pretending like everything's all right. But deep down you know, it's not. You loved someone who hurt you. Someone who looked into your eyes and still chose to wound you. And now you're stuck with the ache they left behind. But listen. There is no shame in that pain. There's no weakness in your hurt. Don't let the world convince you that you should be over it by now. Pain doesn't move on just because the world keeps spinning. You're not dramatic. You're not broken. You're just healing. That heartbreak is not something to hide. It's something to face. Because healing doesn't happen when you deny the wound. Healing happens when you look it straight in the eye and say, yes, I'm hurting. Yes, it broke me, but I refuse to stay broken. And that moment when you choose to face your pain without shame, that's when the healing begins. People like to tell you, just let it go, like it's that easy. Like you didn't build memories with that person. Like your soul didn't trust them. Like you didn't see your future standing beside them. You didn't just lose a person, you lost a part of yourself. And the truth is, you can't heal what you won't admit is hurting. You can't overcome what you keep trying to pretend doesn't exist. That pain is there for a reason. It's showing you where the damage was done. So instead of hiding from it, let it speak, let it scream, let it pour out of you. Cry if you need to. Break down if that's what it takes. Because there's strength in surrender. There's power in honesty. You don't have to be the strong one every second of the day. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is admit, I'm not okay right now. And that's okay. Healing begins when you tell the truth to yourself first. You see, pain has a way of making us question our worth. When someone hurts us deeply, we start to wonder, was it me? Did I do something wrong? Was I not enough? And those questions, they linger like ghosts in your mind. But hear this. Your pain does not mean you were unworthy. Someone else's inability to value your heart does not define its worth. You can't keep blaming yourself for someone else's inability to love you the way you deserve. That pain you feel, it's not a reflection of your weakness. It's a reflection of how deeply you cared. And that's something to be proud of. Because in a world full of people who guard their hearts, who run from love, you had the courage to give yours away. That's not shameful. That's brave. And now in this moment, as you stand with a broken heart, I need you to do the bravest thing of all. Forgive yourself for the pain you didn't deserve. And begin to love the one person you've been ignoring. You. There are nights when the silence is so loud it almost crushes you. The memories come like waves crashing into your heart with no warning. A song, a scent, a place. It all pulls you back to what used to be. And that's when the shame tries to creep in. That's when your mind says you should be past this. Why are you still hurting? But grief doesn't work on a schedule. Letting go isn't a straight line. Some days you'll feel fine, others you'll feel shattered. That's the truth no one tells you. And in those moments when the pain hits hard, don't hide from it. Don't drown it in distractions. Let it speak. Let it teach you, because pain, as cruel as it is, has a purpose. It's the body's way of saying something needs attention. And your heart, it needs attention. Not judgment, not shame, just compassion. Just time, just honesty. You don't owe anyone a fast recovery. You only owe yourself the space to heal at your own pace. Maybe no one saw the way they hurt you. Maybe they smiled in public and stabbed you in private. Maybe everyone thinks they're the victim and you're the villain. And maybe you've been carrying that injustice like a weight on your soul. But hear me, just because others don't see your pain doesn't mean it isn't valid. Just because they walk around pretending like nothing happened doesn't mean you have to. You don't need their permission to hurt. You don't need their apology to heal. You are allowed to feel everything. The anger, the confusion, the heartbreak. You're allowed to be disappointed in how they treated you. Stop shrinking your pain just to keep the peace. Stop editing your emotions because others can't handle your truth. You owe it to yourself to be real, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it feels like no one understands, because this journey, it's not about them. It's about freeing yourself from the emotional prison they left you in. Sometimes we fear facing our pain because we think if we start crying, we might never stop. We think if we fall apart, no one will be there to help us put the pieces back together. But I'm here to tell you, you are stronger than your breakdown. You are bigger than your grief. That pain you're feeling right now, it will not last forever, but it will demand your attention until you honor it. It's not weakness to feel. It's weakness to suppress what's real. Let it rise. Let it come through. Don't numb it. Don't fake a smile. Don't pretend like it didn't hurt. Pretending doesn't heal. Processing does. Feeling does. And every time you let that pain speak and you meet it with compassion, not shame, you take a step closer to peace. You don't heal by avoiding the storm. You heal by walking through it, knowing that on the other side, there's light. The pain you carry didn't start with you. For some, it's rooted in childhood wounds, generational trauma, and years of being taught to silence your emotions. Somewhere along the way, you learned that being strong meant never showing pain. But that's a lie. True strength isn't about holding everything inside. It's about having the courage to let it out. It's about saying, this hurt me, even when it feels uncomfortable. It's about giving your heart the attention it never got. You don't have to live your life pretending. You don't have to suffer in silence. Give yourself the permission to feel deeply, because your heart was not designed to be hard. It was designed to love, to break, and to rebuild. Every tear you've cried is a seed of healing, watering the soil of your next chapter. Don't be ashamed of your emotion. Be proud that you've survived everything you were never meant to carry alone. It's easy to look back and judge yourself for what you allowed, to replay moments and say, how could I let them treat me that way? Why didn't I walk away sooner? But hindsight is always 20/20. You made decisions based on love, not foolishness, based on hope, not weakness. And now you see the truth. But that doesn't mean you were wrong to love. It means you were brave enough to try. Shame tells you it was your fault. Shame tells you you're stupid for staying. But healing tells you you did your best with what you knew at the time. And now you know better. Now you see clearer. And that wisdom came through pain. You don't have to carry regret. You don't have to beat yourself up. Let the past be your teacher, not your prison. Acknowledge the pain, but don't stay there. Let it build you. Let it raise you up. Let it whisper, you deserved better. And now you're learning to give that to yourself. Every time you deny your pain, you deny a piece of your story. And your story matters. Every wound, every heartbreak, every sleepless night, it all becomes part of the tapestry of who you are. You don't grow by running. You grow by standing still long enough to say, this happened, it hurt, but I survived. That's the power of acknowledgement. That's how you take the first step toward freedom. Not by blaming, not by seeking revenge, but by standing in your truth, fully, boldly, without apology. You don't need to fix the pain overnight. You just need to stop pretending it's not there. Let your truth be seen. Let your heart be heard, even if it shakes, even if it trembles, because the moment you stop hiding is the moment you start healing. And that's what this season is for. Not shame, but restoration, wholeness, real love for yourself. So if you're sitting there tonight, tired of pretending, tired of carrying the weight of pain you didn't ask for, know this: you don't have to keep hiding. You don't have to be ashamed of your heart, even if it's broken. That pain you feel, it's not a weakness. It's a sign that you dared to love. And even though it hurt you, it didn't defeat you. Acknowledge it, hold it, speak to it with kindness, and watch over time that pain will begin to soften. Not because it didn't matter, but because you finally gave it a voice. And in that voice, in that truth, you'll find your freedom. One honest breath at a time. Sometimes the hardest part of healing isn't the pain, it's the silence. It's waking up every day hoping for a message that never comes, a conversation that never happens, an apology you keep waiting for that stays locked in someone else's lips. You sit there replaying everything, trying to figure out what you did wrong, trying to make sense of how something so deep ended so cold. But let me tell you something. It is one of the cruelest forms of emotional imprisonment to sit in a cage made of someone else's silence. You deserve freedom. And the first step toward that freedom is accepting that closure is not something you're guaranteed. It's a gift, not a right. Some people leave and never look back, not because you weren't worth it, but because they never had the courage to face what they broke. And you can't keep putting your healing in their hands. It's time to stop waiting for them to give you peace. It's time to create your own peace. Because the longer you wait for their words, the longer you hold yourself hostage to a moment that may never come. And you deserve to be free now, not later. They left without answers. They ended everything without explaining. Maybe they ghosted you. Maybe they made you feel like the problem. Maybe they acted like none of it ever mattered. And you're left holding this burning question in your heart. Why? Why did they leave like that? Why didn't they say goodbye? Why didn't they love you enough to close the door with decency? But listen, some people don't give closure because they don't have the capacity to deal with what they've done. They don't want to face their reflection in your eyes. So instead, they vanish. They rewrite history. They avoid accountability, and you sit in the aftermath thinking maybe if you just understood, you could move on. But healing doesn't come from understanding their brokenness. It comes from choosing to love yourself more than their silence. It comes from accepting that their inability to offer closure is not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of their character. And the moment you stop searching for their words is the moment you start hearing your own soul again. Let that voice grow louder than your unanswered questions. Closure is a lie we often chase when we want to make sense of chaos. We think if we just knew what went wrong, it would hurt less. But truth be told, even if they gave you every reason in the world, it wouldn't fix the ache. Because it's not about facts, it's about emotions. It's about how deeply you cared. It's about the love you gave that wasn't returned. And no explanation will ever fully soothe the ache of being dismissed, devalued, or abandoned. What you really want isn't closure, it's comfort. You want the pain to stop. You want the story to make sense. But some chapters won't, some endings won't feel fair, and that's okay. Life doesn't always give us neat conclusions. Sometimes your peace comes from releasing the need to understand and choosing instead to accept what is. Not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Because waiting for someone else to close the door keeps you stuck in a room you've outgrown. Let yourself walk out, even if they never look back. That's the kind of strength they'll never understand. You've probably rehearsed what you'd say if you saw them again. Maybe you've drafted messages in your mind, trying to craft the perfect words to make them see your pain. That need to be heard. It's human. That longing for validation, it's real. But sometimes the most powerful thing you'll ever do is say nothing. Not because you don't care, but because you've decided to protect your peace. Because silence can be sacred. Closure isn't a conversation. Closure is a decision. It's the moment you say, I won't let their silence define my worth. I won't let their absence control my present. You don't need to prove anything to them. You don't need their permission to move forward. Let your healing speak louder than your hurt. Let your growth speak for itself. If they couldn't see your value then, your words now won't open their eyes. But your life, your peace, your strength, your joy, that's your closure. That's your answer. We often think closure will come when they finally say, I'm sorry, when they admit they were wrong. But some people will never say those words, not because you didn't deserve them, but because they're too prideful to admit their fault, too broken to acknowledge your pain. And while you're over there holding on to hope, they've already moved on like nothing ever happened. That's the reality, and it's painful, but it's also freeing. Because once you stop waiting for their apology, you can start writing your own ending. One where you forgive, not for them, but for you. One where you stop looking back and start creating something beautiful out of the wreckage. Your story doesn't end where they left you. It begins where you decide to rise. And that rise, it starts when you choose to stop begging for answers from someone who never even deserved your questions in the first place. Letting go of the idea of closure doesn't mean the pain vanishes overnight. You'll still have days when it hits you like a wave. You'll still wake up sometimes wondering what it all meant. But healing isn't about erasing the past. It's about embracing the truth that you don't need anyone else to validate your experience. You lived it. You felt it. And that's enough. You don't need a final conversation to declare the end. You can choose today to say, this ends here, not because they said so, but because I said so. That's power. That's healing. That's real closure. And when that moment comes, when you finally stop checking your phone, stop waiting for the message, stop rehearsing what you'd say if they ever reached out, that's when you realize you were the closure all along. You just had to believe it. You gave them a piece of your heart, maybe even your whole heart, and they walked away without a goodbye. That kind of wound, it shakes your faith in people. It makes you question love. It makes you build walls. But don't let one person's cowardice destroy the beauty of your spirit. You are still capable of love. You are still worthy of respect. Just because they exited without dignity doesn't mean you have to abandon yours. Hold your head up, even when it hurts, even when you feel like breaking. Let them walk away with the silence they chose. You walk forward with the strength you built. Because at the end of the day, closure isn't about how they left. It's about how you choose to live after they're gone. Choose to live boldly, choose to heal loudly, choose to love yourself fiercely. That's how you reclaim your power. You see, what most people don't tell you is that the real closure doesn't come in a moment. It comes in layers. It comes in deep breaths and long walks and quiet realizations. It comes when you hear their name and it no longer breaks you. It comes when you remember what you went through and feel gratitude for the lessons, not bitterness for the loss. It comes when you can look back and say, yes, that hurt me, but it also shaped me. It taught me boundaries. It taught me self-respect. It taught me what I will never accept again. That's the kind of closure no one can give you. That's the kind of strength that doesn't need an audience. You don't need a scene. You don't need a final act. You just need a choice to stop waiting and start healing. To stop hoping for what never was and start embracing what can still be. There's something liberating about not needing anything from the person who hurt you. Not their words, not their explanation, not even their regret. When you reach that place, you realize you've grown, you've matured, you've evolved. They no longer control the narrative of your life. And the silence that once tormented you becomes a space where you finally hear your own voice again. A voice that says, I don't need them to finish my story. I'm finishing it myself. That's the voice of healing. That's the voice of wholeness. That's the voice that says, I am enough without their closure. I am enough without their presence. I am enough because I chose myself. And once you find that voice, you never go back. You stop waiting, you start walking. And every step away from their silence is a step toward your freedom. So if no one ever tells you why, if the apology never comes, if the truth never finds its way back to you, let it be. Let it go. Stop knocking on a door that's already closed. Your closure is not behind them. It's within you. And you don't need to beg for what you can give yourself. You don't need to keep hoping for something that may never come. Stand tall, take a deep breath, and walk into the next chapter with your head high. Not because you got all the answers, but because you finally stopped needing them. And that, my friend, is where true healing begins. Love is not supposed to feel like punishment. It's not supposed to drain the life out of you, leave you second-guessing yourself, wondering if you're too much or not enough. If love makes you anxious, if it makes you afraid to speak, to feel, to be your full self, then that's not love. That's control. That's manipulation. That's emotional imprisonment wrapped in the language of affection. Real love does not hurt your spirit. It doesn't tear you down so it can feel bigger. It doesn't come in waves that knock you over just to pull you back for another crash. Love should feel like shelter, not like a storm. And if you've been taught that love is earned through pain, then I need you to unlearn that lie right now. You are not required to bleed for someone to prove you care. You are not called to suffer just to feel worthy of being held. That's not love. That's emotional slavery. You deserve the kind of love that doesn't confuse you, the kind that doesn't come with conditions or bruises on your soul, the kind that brings peace to your heart, not chaos to your mind. Sometimes we mistake intensity for love. We think if it's passionate, if it's wild, if it consumes us, it must be real. But intensity is an intimacy. Fire can keep you warm, but it can also burn your house to the ground. Love that constantly puts you on edge, love that swings from high to low like a pendulum, that's not romance, that's trauma. And if someone tells you that hurting you is part of loving you, they are manipulating you. Love isn't supposed to test how much pain you can endure. It's supposed to protect you from pain. You should not have to beg for basic decency. You should not have to chase validation or twist yourself into knots to avoid being abandoned. If they only treat you right when they feel like it, that's not love. That's power. If they only show affection after they've wounded you, that's not healing, that's control. Let's stop glorifying struggle love. Let's stop praising relationships that break you in the name of growth. Because the truth is, real love doesn't come with conditions that require you to lose your identity. There's a quiet suffering that lives in people who love the wrong way. A pain that grows in silence, hidden behind smiles and I'm okay. You start shrinking yourself, dimming your light just to keep the peace. You tell yourself it's just a phase, they're just going through something. You start justifying their disrespect, excusing their neglect. You hold on tighter because you're afraid to be alone. But let me tell you something. Being alone and at peace is better than being in a relationship that keeps breaking your spirit. Love shouldn't feel like a battle you have to fight every day. It shouldn't leave you crying more than it makes you laugh. If someone loves you, they won't leave you emotionally starving. They won't use your heart like a punching bag. They will cherish your vulnerability, not exploit it. And if you have to suffer to keep them, that's not love. That's fear. And you deserve better than living in fear of the one who's supposed to make you feel safe. A lot of people are addicted to pain because that's what love looked like growing up. Maybe you saw your parents yell more than they hugged. Maybe you grew up believing that love meant sacrifice, that loyalty meant staying no matter how bad it got. But let me wake you up to the truth. Love is not supposed to traumatize you. It's supposed to heal you. It's supposed to be the place where your soul exhales, not the place where it suffocates. And I know it's hard to walk away when pain is familiar, but familiar doesn't mean right. Just because you've seen struggle love doesn't mean you have to settle for it. You have the power to break that cycle. You have the power to create a new story, one where love is calm, honest, supportive, one where love feels like coming home, not like surviving a war. You don't have to accept suffering just to feel loved. You're allowed to want ease. You're allowed to want joy. You're allowed to say, this love is costing me too much, and I'm done paying with my peace. People will tell you that no relationship is perfect, and they're right. But don't let that lie convince you to stay in something that's destroying you. Yes, love takes work. But that work should not include rebuilding yourself every time they tear you down. That work should not mean tolerating disrespect, betrayal, or emotional manipulation. Love is not supposed to strip you of your confidence. It's not supposed to have you questioning your worth every single day. And if it does, you're not in love. You're in bondage. The right love doesn't require you to lose your voice. It helps you find it. It doesn't demand perfection. It accepts you, flaws and all, and still chooses kindness. So don't settle for someone who loves you only when it's convenient. Don't give the best parts of yourself to someone who uses your pain as proof of their power. Love should lift you. Love should see you. And love, real love, should never feel like punishment. There's a reason you feel exhausted all the time when you're with the wrong person. Because your soul is working overtime trying to survive what your heart keeps calling love. You're walking on eggshells, editing your truth, swallowing your needs. That's not love, that's emotional labor. And no matter how much you give, it'll never be enough for someone who thrives off your suffering. That's why you feel drained. That's why your smile feels fake. Because deep down, you know that love is supposed to feel different. It's supposed to energize you, inspire you, support your growth, not keep you stuck in a cycle of emotional highs and devastating lows. You're not crazy for wanting peace. You're not selfish for wanting stability. You're not asking for too much by wanting someone who loves you without making you bleed for it. If they only show love when you're breaking, they don't love you. They love control. Let that sink in. The world has romanticized toxic love for far too long. We've been taught that love must be dramatic to be real, that pain is part of passion, that jealousy means they care. But that's not love. That's dysfunction dressed up as desire. Love should never come with fear. Fear of abandonment, fear of conflict, fear of being yourself. Love should be the safest place you know. A soft place to land when the world is hard. A space where your heart feels seen and your soul feels understood. If you're constantly in survival mode with someone you love, you are not thriving. You are coping. And that's not the life you were meant to live. You were made for more than survival. You were made to love and be loved fully without having to sacrifice your peace or your sanity. Don't mistake pain for proof. Don't call suffering devotion. You can walk away. You can choose yourself. And that choice is not weakness, it's power. You might be thinking, but they love me. And maybe they do in the only way they know how. But love without emotional maturity becomes a weapon. A person can love you and still hurt you. A person can love you and still be toxic. Love alone is not enough. You need communication. You need respect. You need accountability. And if someone refuses to give you those things, their love isn't healthy, it's harmful. You don't have to stay with someone just because you share history or because you once saw a future. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away. Not because you stopped loving them, but because you started loving yourself. Love isn't supposed to break you into pieces you don't recognize. It's supposed to help you grow into your best self. And anyone who demands your suffering in exchange for their affection is not offering love. They're offering bondage. And you deserve better. You don't have to earn love by suffering. Let me say that again for the people in the back. You don't have to earn love by suffering. You don't have to prove your worth by staying through disrespect. You don't have to teach someone how to treat you by letting them hurt you first. You are worthy of love just by being. You are worthy of respect without proving your pain tolerance. The moment you start believing that, your standards rise. You stop tolerating chaos. You stop explaining your boundaries. You stop chasing validation. You become grounded in your worth. And the people who truly love you, they will rise to meet you there. Not because you demand perfection, but because you refuse to accept pain as love's currency. Let that truth sink in. Love that costs you your peace is too expensive. If no one ever told you this before, let me be the first. Love should feel safe. It should feel like alignment, not anxiety. It should feel like growth, not destruction. And if what you're calling love is costing you your self-esteem, your voice, your mental peace, then it's time to let it go. You were not born to carry someone else's dysfunction. You were not created to be a punching bag for someone's trauma. Love should never come with suffering as the price. You deserve a love that heals, not harms, that empowers, not erases, that builds, not breaks. And that kind of love, it starts with you. When you stop allowing pain to be your love language, you open yourself to receive the love that was meant for you all along. You know what hurts the most? It's not always what they did to you. It's what you kept doing to yourself to keep them around. It's the times you stayed quiet when you should have spoken, the moments you said, "I'm fine," when your soul was screaming for help. Self-betrayal is subtle. It's not loud. It creeps in every time you silence your truth, every time you betray your own boundaries just to avoid being abandoned. You call it compromise, but deep down, you know you're giving away pieces of yourself just to feel wanted. That's not love. That's survival. Thank you for walking through this message with your heart open. Thank you for staying true to yourself, even when the world tried to reshape you. Keep living in purpose. Keep rising in silence. And never forget, your life is the final word. God bless you. Stay strong and keep walking tall.